Hi everybody, welcome to the third of our online rock clubs. So this week we're going to be running most of the rock club from my local park. In a moment that's where I'll be heading down to, and we're going to do a bit of rope work, this time using trees and talking about perhaps some techniques for outdoor climbing and also practicing our knots as well that we can use for indoor climbing. And also we're going to be doing a little bit of fitness, or quite a bit of fitness, down at the park. So let's go for that. So let's look at how we can set up a climbing anchor outside. Now, as climbing's prohibited at the moment, I'm just here in my local park rather than visiting one of the crags that we have here in the southeast. Now, most of the climbing that we have nearby would be on the sandstone outcrops that are near Tunbridge Wells. And to make yourself safe on those climbs, you normally would set up a top rope, just like at the indoor climbing centre. At the top of many of the climbs on the Southern Sandstone are bolts that are regularly tested, but all of the other climbs without bolts need to be protected using trees. Now, if we have two ropes, so one rope for climbing and another rope for setting up, then we can connect with the rope. Let's look at how we can connect the rope to the tree. So a good option to go for would be the bowline. So I'm going to wrap the rope around the tree. I'm going to fold the rope towards the tree and underneath, like so. And then the rope on the left side comes from beneath, through that loop, under the long strand of the rope, and then back into the same hole and pull tight, and that's your bowline. Bowlines are not safe to use without an appropriate stopper knot, so we'll tie the same stopper knot that I showed you how to do in the first video when we talked about tying in. Always make sure the stopper knot is good and tight, and load the knot well before you use it. So that would be one way to attach to a tree as an anchor. An alternative way would be to use a nylon sling. This is especially useful if you've only got one rope with you. As you can see, the bowline is actually quite easy to remove, much easier than a rethreaded figure of 8 knot would be. So now let's look at using a sling. It's important that the sling is long enough so that there's no bend on the carabiner like this. We won't be able to use this sling for this job because it's simply not long enough. So on a good strong tree like this with a good strong branch, a good option would be to use one of the larger branches. This branch is almost the same diameter as the rest of the tree, and it's also given us a much nicer point to build our anchor from. To connect to this anchor you could use the clove hitch, although you would see some slippage. So what I mean by that is that the climber, while applying their weight to the rope and the belayers holding the rope, there will be some extension at the clove hitch. So to avoid that, we're going to tie the figure of 8 on the bite, which I believe we've covered in a previous video. We'll need to use a locking carabiner for anchors, and we'll need to make sure that it's shut. So, you've got a couple of ways to use a tree as a main anchor. Let's have another look at tying the bowline, this time focusing in on my hands much more closely, rather than focusing on the background of where we might use the knot. So I've passed the rope around the tree. No twists, just simply passing it. To tie this knot, it's approximately shoulder to the tip of my finger to make sure I'm going to have plenty, okay? So let's not tie the knot too close to the tree because we want nice tight angles under 90 degrees to keep this right. So let's watch the first part of the knot going in. See that again? So it's from beneath and towards the tree, so that the loop is on the inside between my two hands. And now this strand passes through that loop, round the back of this long end, and then goes back into the same hole that it just came out of. It's your bowline. And the stopper knot is the same as the figure of 8, but you may have noticed it's now on the other end of the rope. If we tied them with a figure of 8, our stopper knot would be on this end. So let's look closely at tying a stopper knot onto a bowline. We don't want any gap, so I've got my hand nice and close to the bowline knot. Using my dominant hand and extending my index finger to hold this space open. We'll go round, forming an X. We'll go round again, second time, and third time. And then finally, we're going to pass this end of the rope through the hole where my index finger is in the direction my index finger points. So I'll pull that finger out, pass the ends of the rope, through the middle of this barrel knot, and then while holding it with my left hand and pulling it tight on both ends to seat it neatly on top of the bowline. It's nice and strong with a good length tail. So that's your bowline. Clove hitches can be tied around round objects such as posts or trees. This would be useful in a system where we want a bit of adjustability at this point. It would be more preferable to use a fixed knot that doesn't have so much slip in it for main anchor applications. Let's look at how you can tie a clove hitch directly on to a tree or a post or a stake. Just like the bowline, we've started with the rope looped around the branch without any twists. We now need a second loop around the branch. There's no crisscrossing between these loops, but what I need is to create the X shape that you can see here before passing the short end under the X. The knot loads equally well on both ends and is really quite solid. So that would be another way to use the clove hitch. Okay, so let's get on with a little bit of an aerobic warm-up. So the first thing we're going to do is just start with some easy star jumps. I'm going to do first 20. Hope you guys are doing something every day.
Yeah.
Straight back, good posture for these. Ankles on the floor, everybody. Shoulder rotations, 3 per arm. Focus on posture here. Reverse direction. While I've got your attention, check out some of Sean McCall's warm-up videos that he's brought out recently. He's a fantastic climber, Sean McCall. Amazing climber to watch as well. Sean McCall's shoulders have such flexibility, strength and stability. It allows him to climb much better than climbers that are taller than him at a greater strength. It's a fantastic technique. Just rotating shoulders here. Reverse direction. Okay, so we're going to look at doing some push-ups here, and we're going to be doing it with our feet raised above the position they would naturally be in for a push-up. Try and keep a really straight back. Keep good form with these. I'm just going to slowly press down and press up. Try and keep those elbows in. That's 10. I think coming to the park to do exercises is definitely something that we should be doing if we have access to a park. Okay, some of us can't do push-ups. Let's talk about that. A good way to start would be to start on your knees. Keep your elbows next to your chest and press up like that. Because your knees are closer to your centre of mass, which is for most people around the lower part of the torso, you've got less weight to push up on. Try that if you can't do a push-up. If you can, my challenge to you is we're going to spend 10 seconds on the way up and 10 seconds on the way down. Have a quick breather. Alright, starting in 10. Press up, 10 seconds on the way up, 10 seconds on the way down. Go. There you go. Let's plank.
Sit. Sit.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That was my form. Back nice and straight. It's great to plank with a mirror if you've got one. Hey doggo! You want to raise the bat a bit? Try these. good for me. Okay, so I'm fully warmed up after my aerobics. I'm feeling really good actually, after just doing some stuff to start out. Water, please, lots of it, before and after stretching. This is really, really important. Okay, let's start the stretching. So, before we start these, let's just really look at posture. I'm going to find a nice flat bit of grass, and seat my heels, roll my hips forward, almost like I was trying to carry a tray on this part of my body, just below my belly button. It's really solid. Take a big breath in, and let it out. Another one in, and drop your shoulders. Hopefully, that's got you feeling full of air. Now, fully raise your right arm, relax your left shoulder, drop the arm, apply a bit of extra pressure with my left arm. If you can join your hands behind your back, that's a great alternative. I'm especially fond of this stretch because having the left arm in this position behind my back is actually quite good for working with the rotator cuff. Now, the rotator cuff is a part of anatomy that I won't be able to cover in this video, but what you need to know about it is it stabilizes and controls your shoulders and connection to your back, and injuries to the rotator cuff are quite common in climbing. Swapping arms. Okay. Feel a nice stretch through your shoulder, particularly on the outside of the arm you're stretching. Heels on the ground, people. Heels on the ground. Let's look at this in a little bit more detail. We're going to stretch our arms out as far out in front of us as we can, and then raise each arm at the shoulder joint, just gently, almost like we're shrugging our shoulders. Can't quite get my heel on the ground for this one. you can't touch your toes, please just relax as much as you can. Don't force it. Just put your hands on the fronts of your legs. Slide your hands all the way down your leg. Ideally, see a big toe. If you prefer, try this from a seated position. So we're back home now. Hope you enjoyed the trip to the park. Thank you very much for following along and joining in. Before we go, we've just got time for the answers to the quiz. So, first question was, when did High Sports open? Switch off now if you don't want to know the answers. So, the hardest sport route in the UK is probably Rainman at Malham Cove, which goes at 9B. There may be some future to that, so possibly have a look into the articles that you'll find online about Adam Ondra coming over to try that route with Steve McClure. Good stories there. Alex Honnold had to free solo 3,300 feet to reach the top of El Capitan. That is a big route. HMS carabiners should be used for clove hitches. Now, where is Trango Tower? Trango means nameless tower, and there's actually more than one Trango Tower. Trango Towers are a family of rock towers in the north of Pakistan, and it includes Great Trango Tower, and there's a route up that called the Eternal Flame. It's been climbed by people like David Lama and Conrad Anker and things like that. Any pictures or any information you can find about an ascent of that route, I'm sure you'll be amazed by it. It's one of the most amazing feats of humanity, I think, rock climbing 6,000 meters above the ground. So we had a question about a route. That route was End of the Affair, E8. I asked you which crag it's at. Well, it's on Eastern Grit and it's at Kerber, pictured here on the cover. Stinging nettle is a 7A plus boulder problem found at Stone Farm. This hand-drawn map shows the drive from Clanbear. It's a very scenic drive with Betsy Coyd and some unbelievable scenery. So that's in North Wales. That's the answer we wanted there. OS map. It's a bit easier when it says Cumbria across the front. So I showed you a map featuring Scafell and surrounding hills. Third map. Bit of a hint there on the front. So this is in Glenmore Lodge near the Cairngorms. Cairngorms on the back there. And we looked at Ben McDewey and some other amazing peaks near there. So that's your picture round. So thanks so much for joining in, and we'll see you next week.